That's for losers, man. I don't get involved in that stuff. But
Angel Rashad Milligan rolling out.
That's a good question.
Brandon,
We
you want one quick question?
can't ask Rashad questions.
Hey, Rashad.
Oh, yeah. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Rashad Milligan. If you are new to the channel, this is the road to 5K subs. I did this live last night, probably about 6 hours ago, but none of the audio recorded. I knew I wasn't on camera, but I thought it would just be me. You still be able to hear my voice because that's what, but it didn't work. So I have 20 minutes into work. So let's see if I could do this entire show again in 20 minutes. All right, you ready? Break. Okay, here we go. So first things first, the first thing I talked about was this Harriet Tubman story. And this was very interesting to me. It was a white actress in San Diego. She sued the San Diego County Library for not allowing her to portray Black civil rights icons. This was written by Katie Hyson, the Racial Justice and Social Equity Report. I did not know that. And contributors Charlotte Radovic and Mike Damron. And Katie, I believe, came from Gainesville, Florida before she moved over to the San Diego, California area. With that being said, let's get into it. Annette Hubel wrote a one-woman show. In it, she portrays historical figures, white like herself and Black. It never occurred to me that it might even be an issue, she said. I was telling their stories, bringing them alive. Rancho Santa Fe Library asked her to perform her show for Women's History Month in 2024, she said. She gave them a list of characters to pick from. They chose Harriet Beecher Stowe, a white abolitionist, Mary McLeod Bethune, a Black educator and civil rights leader, and Harriet Tubman, who escaped freedom and led others to freedom along the Underground Railroad. A couple weeks before the show, Hubel said they asked her to swap out Bethune and Tubman for white characters. And I said, why? And they said, because it's not appropriate for you to be doing this. You're a white woman. And I said, oh, no. You don't understand. I'm honoring these women. I have so carefully researched, people said. And she said, that doesn't matter. And I said, you mean I'm only to perform women whose stories of bravery and courage should be told if they're white? And she said, that's pretty much it. So I'm not getting it. And so I said, well, tell me how this is different from the Hamilton play. In Hamilton, non-white actors portray white historical figures. And she said, this was historically different. And I said, I don't quite understand that. Explain that, please. And she said, I can't explain it. And quite frankly, I'm quite baffled that you don't understand, she recounted. All right, let me make sure everything. Okay, we good. The debate escalated to the country's diversity and inclusion team, who affirmed the decision. Hubel would have to swap out the characters. And my first thought was, why wasn't I invited to this meeting if it's inclusion? Hubel said. She refused to change the characters. If they came to me and said, somebody in our library really likes Corey Ten Boom and Gladys Aylward, white characters, would you change out those two characters for them? And I would have said, sure. But because they said it was because I was white and they were Black, I said, this has nothing to do with it. No, I won't. The library canceled her performance. The county declined to comment on pending litigation. In an email, county spokesperson Donna Dirktail said, the San Diego County Library remains steadfast in its mission to promote an inclusive and welcoming environment for all that promotes learning, civic engagement, and community connection. Hubel doesn't use makeup for her characters, just costume changes, aka I won't use blackface. I think if people thought I was doing blackface or a parody of these people, not respecting them, then it might be some cause for objection. But all they have to do is read my stories and my testimonies on my website to see how deeply I respect and honor and admire these people, she said. Hubel posted on Facebook about the library canceling her show. The San Diego Union Tribune published an opinion piece by former San Diego City Attorney Jan Goldsmith supporting her. The lawyer from the Pacific Legal Foundation read it. They called me and said, this is horrific. Hubel said, we need to do something about this. Hubel said the lawyer convinced her to sue. If these women that I portray are against such injustice and such egregious outdoings in their lives, who am I to stop fighting at this? Hubel said. So she's comparing herself, just so we run this back, an abolitionist, someone who helped end slavery, someone who's extremely against slavery, and she's comparing what she's doing to Harriet Tubman, who led hundreds of slaves to freedom and led herself to freedom as a black woman during the night. She outsmarted slave masters throughout the entire South. She's comparing what she's doing as just being an older white lady playing these folks on the stage in a one-woman play at the local San Diego County Library to that. Just so we're caught up, all right? We're caught up. Pacific Legal Foundation's website said it fights for individual liberties. It's filled with suits implicit bias training, race quotas for licensing boards, programs meant to close racial opportunity gaps, and more. Hubel's lawyer, Chris Barnwold, said they aim to set the legal precedent. We do this because we're interested in the impact, he said. We want to send a clear message that the government has a duty to every individual to treat them equally and treat them fairly. If the San Diego County government can make decisions based on race, for instance, then in any county and local government could do the same. And we want to make sure that stops here. So-called reverse discrimination, what does not exist. Suits stretch back to at least the 1970s. By the way, check out the hoodie. I love LA. If you know, you know. Recently, high-profile cases have made headlines again, like the Supreme Court ruling against considering race in college admissions. They are being filed across the country, with a slew in California and locally in San Diego. After a white plaintiff sued, the city of San Diego removed the race requirement from a program meant to help people of color buy their first home. These lawsuits rely on laws enacted after slavery and the civil rights movement that were meant to address discrimination, particularly against formerly enslaved African Americans, said Dan Eaton, a legal analyst. But the reasons a law was written don't really matter in the court of law, only what the words say. What we're seeing as the law has evolved is the application of these laws or constitutional amendments, as the case may be, to the claims by the member of the majority. It's been really interesting to see that it's all turned on its head, said Angie Chandler, who's advised arts and institutions across the county, including San Diego. She advocates in part for more stage time for Black playwrights and actors. Chandler has also played Harriet Tubman. Even as a Black woman, it's been one of the more difficult roles I've ever had to play, she said. And this is Angie Chandler playing Harriet Tubman at the Levine Museum of the New South. She loved to play Mary McLeod Bethune, whose body, she said, was central to her experience. A woman over 200 pounds, dark-skinned Black woman living in the 1800s and 1900s in this country. There's not a way that I can even invite you into what it's like to walk around this country in a similar body in 2020 and in 2025. Physically objectified, stared at. Hubel's performance is not the same as the colorblind casting in Hamilton, she said. It's not a two-way street because colorblindness is a response, she said, a response to historic exclusion, to the erasure of our stories and our parts of different chapters in this history of the country. She said any defense of Hubel's performance also ignores the harmful history of white people portraying people of color. It's not just blackface and yellowface, but the centuries-long fight for roles for non-white actors that go beyond stereotypes, which she said is still ongoing today. The creation of the American theater didn't happen in a vacuum, but in a starkly divided and racist society, she said. The foundation of the American arts movement mean that it will never be as simple and innocent and neutral for a white person to attempt to tell or perform the story of a Black person. Under the letter of the law, this may not matter. So she might win the lawsuit after all of this because of technicalities and the way that the law is written. So that was the first thing I went over. And then the second thing I went over was Carmelo Anthony. So Carmelo Anthony, the footage, the Frisco Independent School District, they released the video of the entire incident between Carmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf. However, they said they would not make it public. So they're only showing it to media members and this viewing only. So these media members decided to describe it for us. Shout out to CBS News Texas. Here we go. Frisco ISD releases video of fatal track meet involving Carmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf. This was written by Kelsey Mitor. Shout out to Kelsey Mitor. Frisco Independent School District has released surveillance footage of a fatal gang that occurred during a track meet in April, but only under strict conditions. Under Texas open records laws, requesters may view such video in some cases, but are not permitted to record it. Camera captures this in view. The video begins several minutes before the altercation began between Carmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf. The camera position near the press box captures half of the field at Q Kendall Stadium. The tent where the incident occurred is located in the bleachers near the 50-yard line. Due to the camera's distance, individuals are not easily identifiable. At approximately 9:55 a.m., a sudden movement is seen under the tent, followed by an interaction between two figures. Frisco ISD official says this is the moment the yank occurred. Several people are seen walking or running away, while others approach the area. Minutes later, an ambulance arrives, entering through the gate near the end zone and driving to the 50-yard line. Paramedics appeared to realize that they cannot reach Metcalf, who was in the bleachers. With the stretcher, they return it to the end zone, then carry it into the stands. While paramedics work on Metcalf, someone places crime scene tape and rolls a blue tarp higher into the stands behind the tent. Police later said this is where the weapon was used and the yank was found. Stretcher moved to the ambulance. At about 10:13 a.m., paramedics began moving the stretcher towards the entrance as the ambulance reverses alongside it. 6 or 7 individuals surround the stretcher as it is loaded into the ambulance at 10:15 a.m. The vehicle does not depart until 10:20 a.m. Police remain on the scene. This video continues for several more minutes, showing police activity under the tent. Prosecutors may present the footage to a grand jury. So that is what's going on right now. We shall see what happens and everything like that. So the next thing I talked about was Dietrich Haddon. Dietrich Haddon was speaking about Glorilla winning the Gospel Award, the Bobby Jones Award and things of that sort, and what he thinks of the current state of gospel music and things of that sort. So with that being said,
gospel music industry needs an overhaul, period. After last night's show, it's an indicator that we just need a complete reset. Like what are we doing? Are we allowing this to happen over and over again and wonder why the gospel music industry is dying? Come on, man. In order to have something different, you have to do something different. So we need people in the room that know gospel music, that's in the trenches of gospel music, that's advocating for the genre as a whole and not one particular person. It's already a small genre. So it's hard for us to watch the Dr. Bobby Jones Gospel Award being given to somebody that's not in our space, right? No disrespect to the artist, but that's not the space she's in. And so it makes it discouraging, disappointing, and it takes the wind out of all of it. And we wonder why gospel music is dying. It's because we're doing things like that. Well, on top of that is, we're tired. Nobody will say this, but I will. Of seeing the same people being celebrated year after year. Like there is nobody else in gospel music. Like no one else is working. You cannot just give it to one person as if they're the ones that's keeping it going. No. We're done with that. Last night was a great win for the ratings for BET. I give certain people awards for ratings, but it was not a win for the gospel music industry. We got to do better. So I propose let's start something where we can come together and have someone advocating for the genre that have no other motive and agenda in the room but to elevate the gospel music genre as a whole. That's what I feel.
okay, so and what I said was it's ridiculous because the past few years the gospel portion of the BET Awards has always been Kirk Franklin. It's been some form of Kirk Franklin. Last year it was Kirk Franklin and Friday and Will Smith during Will Smith's performance.
A couple of years before that, it was Maverick City when they were on tour with Kirk Franklin and Kirk Franklin. And then so it was always like Kirk Franklin, Kirk Franklin, Kirk Franklin. So then I looked up, has Corinne Hawthorne ever done BET Awards? Corinne Hawthorne has never done the BET Awards. She's walked the carpet of the BET Awards last year, which surprised me. You see right here, shout out to Gold Derby for getting that interview, but she's never performed the BET Awards. And then Jonathan McReynolds. Has Jonathan McReynolds ever done the BET Awards? Let's look. Okay, Jonathan McReynolds. Is this how you spell Jonathan McReynolds? Let's see. Yes, this is how you spell it. He's never done the BET Awards. You see the Stellar Awards. There's nothing at the Jonathan McReynolds and Kane Brown talk about inspirational BET Awards performance. What about just actual BET Awards? Has he performed? I don't think Jonathan McReynolds has ever performed at the BET Awards. Jonathan McReynolds. Oh, okay. He might have performed in 2020. He might have performed in 2020, the virtual year. So he might have performed 2020. So Jonathan McReynolds has Jacqueline Carr. Jacqueline Carr, has she ever performed at the BET Awards? Jacqueline Carr has never performed at the BET Awards. This is the point. This is the exact point. She's performed at the Stellars, but she's never performed at the BET Awards. So those are kind of like the big three of the young gospel artists who kind of lead the way. The last gospel song that was a big deal, I've said this before on multiple videos, was Corinne Hawthorne's Won't He Do It? That was 8 years ago. That was 2017 and things of that sort. So Dietrich Haddon, the last time he's performed at the BET Awards himself as a legend was 2011. The last time that Fred Hammonds performed at the BET Awards, you see Dietrich Haddon, Donnie McClurkin, and Mary performed in 2011. The last time that not Kirk Franklin. The last time that Fred Hammonds performed at the BET Awards, let me see if I can find that here, was never. Yeah, it was never. Fred Hammonds never performed at the BET Awards, which is incredible. Yeah, he's never performed at the BET Awards. Who else has never performed at the BET Awards? Ricky Dillard has never performed at the BET Awards. When's the last time that Donnie McClurkin has performed at the BET Awards? It's another thing. Okay, so Donnie McClurkin, let me see. BET Awards. Last time that Donnie McClurkin has performed very well might be 2011. He won Best Gospel Artist in 2001, and that was kind of it. And he performed in 2011, and that was it. That is extremely disappointing because for a lot of kids, especially growing up, the only portion of faith-based content that they ever got was the gospel portion of the BET Awards each and every single summer. 5 minutes of the gospel artist performing, and that's what they had. And so I think that BET should consider, just looking to, if you're going to use 5-minute segment on gospel, let's look at some other artists. Kirk has received his Icon Award, well deserved this year, but he's received his Icon Award. He's performed for most of the 2020s. Now let's continue moving. Let's get Pastor Mike Jr. performing. Let's get, like I said, Jacqueline Carr, Jonathan McReynolds, Corinne Hawthorne performing at the BET Awards. Let's honor Mary. Let's honor Dietrich Haddon. Let's honor Ricky Dillard. Let's honor Fred Hammond. Let's honor Donnie McClurkin with their lifetime awards of what they've added to gospel music, what they did in 2000s for the genre of gospel music. And let's continue to shine a light on that as much as we do the other genres and subgenres within Black culture. And then on top of that, let's also look at CHH. Let's also honor Lecrae. Let Lecrae get an award. Let's let 1K Few be highlighted. Let's see Emmanuel the Prophet be highlighted. Let's see Miles Minnick get some shine. Let's see Andy Mineo get his. It didn't have to be Andy Mineo, it's a BD voice. But you know what I'm saying? Let's just see different people who are doing amazing things in a faith-based space. As you guys know, we had Boots on the Ground perform this year at the BET Awards. That's Southern Soul and some Southern things. In the South, faith is a huge thing. Faith plays a huge part in the Black community in the South, and so let's give its just due. Let's give gospel music its just due, and not just at the Stellar Awards. So that's it. We have the hip hop awards, but we still give, hip hop is just due at the BET Awards. Let's do the same for gospel music and show it that respect, because it's not just Kurt Franklin, Kurt Franklin, Kurt Franklin. Salute to Kurt Franklin. Kurt Franklin is dope. But goodness gracious, bro. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's all I was saying with that. As I clock in to work. And I got 15 minutes before my first meeting for the day. So yes, we will be ending pretty soon. And then so the next thing, I like that Dez versus Jay Cinco play basketball in the essence of time. Oh yeah, should I play it again? No, I'll skip that. I'll skip this again. I'll skip this again. Cuffham, he trolled Aiden Ross, talking about why Kai Cenat no longer hangs with them, and how Kai Cenat got the Drake stream without having to pay, or without having stake kind of involved in things of that sort, as opposed to where he was on Aiden stream for the sake of their corporate interests and things of that sort. And he said, I love Kai. He said, if you love Kai so much, if that's your man's, why don't you call him right now? And he said, I miss Kai. And things of that sort. And then I think this was the last thing that I went over, and it was from Pastor Tim Ross, friend of the channel. Y'all make sure y'all check out my interview with Tim Ross, and from a couple years ago. And he said something that was just very profound. He just said the key to continuing to yearn for his wife just included the way that he acted in public. So here he goes.
The reason why I have a strong sexual appetite for my wife is because I don't go eat burgers and fries and shakes when I'm out. I eat when I get home. My eyes, I don't go feast on other women's bodies all day and then compare my wife's body that I've been with for 26 years to somebody's body that ain't even 26 years old.
It is so true that if a man is like, oh, I'm not attracted to my wife anymore. Look at his search history. Look at what he's looking at on social media. It is not normal for a married man to go and look at all these naked women on a screen. Of course, he's not going to be attracted to his wife anymore. He's meeting his sexual appetite. He's feeding it with a bunch of other women. Sometimes I'll even hear a woman say, I don't care if my man looks but doesn't touch. One day he's going to get bored of you, because he has feasted his eyes on every other woman he had access to. Whenever a man says something like, I can't imagine being with one woman for the rest of my life. Yeah, it's because you've been feeding your lust. You're looking at naked woman after naked woman after naked woman on your social media, on your internet searches. In real life, you're staring at every other woman. And so then, yeah, by the time you look at your wife, you're like, it could be better. If looking at altered images affects women's self-esteem, if looking at women who have had a ton of work done affects women's self-esteem, you think men aren't impacted by looking at all these images? A good man will protect his eyes. He's not going to be out there staring at every other woman, fantasizing about every other woman. He knows that to protect his marriage, he will have self-control day in and day out, instead of being this like very lustful kind of guy. If a man tells me, oh, I'm just not attracted to my wife anymore, I already know what he's been looking at. I know that kind of man who falls out of love with his wife because he's not attracted to her anymore has fed his lust over and over and over. And that kind of man will never be satisfied.
100%. 100%. I agree with this. This is a biblical thing and things of that sort. So, and it is in the New Testament. So it's Matthew 5:28. And as you guys know, most of you guys know, it's one of the more famous scriptures and things of that sort in history. But it is, it refers to the concept of lustful thoughts and desires, both being sinful in the eyes of God, and not just the physical act of adultery. So obviously, a lot of you people might look at, it's a sin to physically cheat. But it's also a sin, according to the Bible, to cheat within your heart and just view at people through a lustful lens in public. And if you don't want to view this through a kind of spiritual or someone say religious, whatever the case might be, a faith-driven way, because you might not believe or might not go that way, I think just this is a practical practice. It makes sense practically, logically, because if you're constantly feeding yourself one thing, you are going to be obsessed with said one thing, right? If I constantly eat donuts, then my appetite, my taste buds would be to like lean donuts as opposed to leaning apple. If I constantly ate apples to the point where I started liking apples, guess what I'm going to want? If like my teeth don't feel clean, or like if I just want a crisp, hard type of snack, excuse me, pause. If I want that, what am I going to get? I'm going to get an apple. I'm going to get an apple. I'm not going to get like a hard candy bar. You know what I'm saying? And that's because I've trained my appetite to sway one way. It's just a practical way, and things of that sort. So this is the actual verse from Matthew, and here's the NIV version. But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. And that's just the case. And I think that's what's going on here. What Tim Ross said, and what this young lady said as well, reacting to him on TikTok. So I agree with it. I think it's some good food for thought for today. And yeah, with that being said, that was pretty much last night's stream. I'm sorry that it didn't record any of the audio from me. I thought the audio was recording and the picture was just out, but no, the picture was out and the audio was out the entire time. So it was just quiet, except for the little few seconds that I was reacting to the video. So the actual live was 40 minutes. This is 26 minutes, so 14 minutes shorter. And then, I got to go to work and things of that sort, which I'm on the clock for right now. But I'll see you guys tonight. I'll be back tonight, and hopefully I can give you more full live and things of that sort, where I want to honor the journalist who passed away as well yesterday. I want to honor her as well, Miss Lewis. So, in her battle with cancer and things of that sort, I want to make sure I give her that just due process, that, full tribute as a journalist and everything like that. I just want to salute her. So we'll be doing that tonight, in addition to some other things. And so make sure you tune in. Hopefully it's not too late. I'm trying not to stream too late anymore. I started that stream last night at 2:30 a.m. because I just did 1 a.m. pod, and some other stuff was going on with the Aces game and stuff. So hopefully it's not too late tonight when I start streaming, and hopefully you tune in. Until next time, as always, my name is Rashad Milligan. If you're new to the channel, this is the road to 5K subs. Have a good morning. Have a good day. Have a good afternoon. Have a good evening. Have a good night. And if no one else told you today, I care for you. Peace. See you tonight.
That's for losers, man. I don't get involved in that stuff, but.
Angel Rashad Milligan rolling out.
That's a good question. We can't ask Rashad questions.
Hey, Rashad.